we're going to be going over the entire history of glitches and exploits in every Call of Duty. Some of these still haven't been patched. Let's dive in.
50,000 people used to live here. Now it's a ghost town.
Starting things off, we have the original Modern Warfare Call of Duty 4. Now, in this game, the biggest exploit was the crazy out-of-the-map spots that you could get into. Back then, there was something in the game called Old School Mode, which among other things allowed you to jump super high compared to any other standard mode in the game. And this gave players an endless amount of ways that you could jump your way out of the map. There's also another way that you could jump out of the map is if you learned how to do the RPG jump. Now, the most notable map that you could get out of was Crossfire. And the coolest thing about this was, once you were out of the map, you could actually get into a daytime version of the map, Fog. Moving on to World at War, well, yeah, there were more map-related exploits, but this time in zombies and in multiplayer. Now, on the first ever zombies map, Knock There on Toten, there was a specific spot that you could kind of just jump crouch into. And this would essentially create an invisible barrier that stopped the zombies from getting to you. This allowed players to rack up some pretty high rounds. Now, the funny thing is, when you got to a higher round, because there were so many zombies, some of these zombies would eventually manage to break through the barrier and end your game. Now, on the multiplayer side of things, you best believe it, you could actually get under the map. Now, we have a little clip here. This was the map Roundhouse, and it was pretty much the same exact style for every single one of the multiplayer maps. You would get up to the wall and you would just like constantly crouch. As you crouched, you would just periodically go through the wall even more, and eventually you would get through it. Now, I think Roundhouse was one, I believe Castle was one, and there might have been another one. I don't remember how quickly it took to patch these, but I'm not gonna lie. Did I do them, and did I shoot people under the map in Search and Destroy? I did. I'm so sorry, okay? I'm sorry.
FBI, open up!
All right, next up we have Modern Warfare 2, and you can probably guess what the biggest exploit was. That's right, one-man army noob tubes. Now, the grenade launcher was already overpowered enough on its own, but paired with one-man army, yeah, you were literally what it was called, a one-man army. You could just fire off your 2 noob tubes, switch to the one-man army, pick your class again, then it would refill all your ammo. From there, it was just rinse and repeat. And honestly, it was kind of disgusting how many people use this. And the funny thing was, there was a bunch of maps like Wasteland. This is an OG clip, but you could pretty much get a nuke without even leaving your spawn. You would just do one-man army, you know the rhythm, you get a Harrier, you get a chopper, and then you can literally get a nuke. You haven't even left your spawn, folks. And this was one of the most overpowered things maybe in COD history. Now, there is one other thing that I did a couple times as well. This was the unlimited care package glitch. You could spawn pretty much as many care packages as you want. This was pretty much done by exploiting a sequences of actions, picking up a gun, then you would throw a care package, then you would use a kill streak. It was a weird combo, but at one point in the game, you could see 15 care packages lying around. It was actually kind of a funny thing. This is what MW2 did so well. It was so chaotic because of these exploits. It actually ended up being fun. Next up, we return to a Treyarch-made Call of Duty with the release of the very first Black Ops game. And of course, with this as well, brings us another iconic zombies glitch. This was in the map 5. This was an exploit in the spawn room of this map where if you shot out part of the glass on one of the doors and rebuilt the barriers in a specific way, you could jump onto the barrier, which then allowed you to jump on top of the conference tables. And you guessed it, the zombies could not reach you at all. Kind of similar to the Knock There on Toten glitch we mentioned earlier, players racked up some insanely high rounds by using this exploit. Now, on the multiplayer side of things, there was a glitch on Nuketown where you could actually stack and place care packages in a particular way to get yourself out of the map and explore the surrounding desert.
All warfare is based on deception.
The next year, we had the final installment of the original Modern Warfare trilogy, Modern Warfare 3. And in poetic fashion, just like the original Modern Warfare, you could get out of the map yet again. But this time, instead of old school mode, there was like this riot shield slingshot thing that you could do, where you essentially had a riot shield and a throwing knife equipped. And if you had an enemy standing right in front of you in specific spots on various maps, you could melee lunge towards them, cancel the melee with your throwing knife, and it would send you flying through the air. Now, I don't know how people found this, but they did. And this meant you could pretty much get on the top of a ton of maps. But one of the coolest you could get out of was resistance, as you could get right to the very top of the rooftops there. There was also a wall breach glitch on the map Outposts, which allowed you to get under the map, where then you could get outside of the map. Then you could take a really long route around the outskirts of the map and eventually end up on the top of the mountain with an insane bird's eye view of the entire map. Did you get that? The coolest thing about these lunge jump spots and the wall breach on Outpost is that this was all during the trick shotting era, which meant that we saw a crazy amount of trick shots being hit from these spots. I also have to give an honorable mention to this glitch spot on the map Village, where you can equip a riot shield and akimbos. If you lay on top of the well with your akimbos out and started spamming YY, your character would look like this. There's absolutely nothing special about it. I just thought it was funny. Moving back to the Black Ops series, we had Black Ops 2 and yet again the return of zombies glitches. Now on the map Town, which was a part of Transit, there was a glitch where if you bought Quick Revive 3 times, the machine would disappear, but when the machine disappeared, you could actually then stand where the Quick Revive machine was prior, and it would create an invisible barrier between you and the zombies, which, you guessed it, allowed players to rack up some pretty high rounds. There were also other variations of invincibility glitches in Transit that involved using the turbine and zombie shield to create invisible barriers and even get behind walls. Now in multiplayer, there was a tree that was out of the map of Raid that you could strafe jump to, and similar to MW3, we saw some pretty cool trick shots from this spot. Next up, it's Call of Duty Ghosts, and despite the fact that this was the first game since 2007 that they had developed that wasn't part of the Modern Warfare series, we yet again saw the return of the out-of-map glitches. The coolest one by far in this game was the ability to get on top of the map Stormfront by using a combination of care packages and an IMS. If you did this one correctly, you would teleport on top of the map. The craziest thing about this glitch is that even when you're literally on the top of Stormfront, you probably still have a higher chance of finding an enemy up there than you do in Stonehaven. There were also ways to get inside of buildings and on top of the roofs and on some maps that some trick shotters found, and they also found ways to strafe jump on the map Freight that allowed you to get on top of the factory roof. So just like in MW3, this allowed players to hit some pretty cool looking trick shots. Moving on to 2014, it's Advanced Warfare. We no longer need melee lunge jumps or an IMS to go flying in the air because we got our first jetpack Call of Duty instead. And as you can imagine, this made it incredibly easy for people to get out of several different maps. Most notably, there was a super easy exploit on the map Detroit that allowed you to get on top of all the buildings and on top of the train tracks. Now, as fun as Advanced Warfare was, the massive downside of this game was the introduction of pay-to-win supply drops. But with the introduction of these supply drops, people found a glitch that allowed you to get extra supply drops. All you needed to do was boot in to capture the flag, play the game until you got an alert that you've unlocked a new supply drop, immediately back out of the game, and then you were awarded with 5 supply drops instead of 1. And I know, it can't just be me thinking that even if FaZe Jev did do this, he still wouldn't have gotten the quick bolt.
All right, next supply drop. Here we go. What are we gonna get? A pair of fucking pants!
Back to the Black Ops series we go, and this is the release of Black Ops 3. As you probably know, this is the second year in a row where we had a jetpack game, but this was really the first year that we saw that jetpack movement be exploited. Now, players found something that went on to be known as the G-Slide, and I'm gonna let Mr. Scump explain what that was.
Let me show you guys what it looks like. Okay, so you're gonna jump. That's what it looks like. You see how far I just went? I just straight glided across the map.
Now, as you can see, this was an extremely broken movement mechanic that allowed players to get around the map at an insane speed and get into gunfights extremely quickly. Now, Treyarch actually addressed this one pretty quickly as well, as about a month later, they patched the movement. Now, a lot of people in the COD scene, more specifically the pro scene, were unhappy with this, as they enjoyed the faster pace, and they actually felt like it was an advantage to know this, more of like a skill gap. But Treyarch didn't really care. They patched it. It never came back. The final jetpack game brings us to Infinite Warfare, and the biggest glitch on this game was in Zombies in Spaceland, and it was definitely one of the highlights of the game. But let's be honest, there wasn't much to cheer about that year other than Modern Warfare Remastered. But back to the point. So although this was a jetpack COD, you didn't have jetpacks in Zombies. However, there was an exploit that allowed you to get an exosuit, which, as you can imagine, made Zombies a whole lot easier. Of course, this allowed you to just simply jump away from any incoming zombies, but it also allowed players to get out of the map, on top of the map, and even get behind invisible barriers, similar to what we've seen in previous games. Over on the multiplayer side of things, there was a rig you could use called the FTL. This rig had something called the FTL jump, and with this came the ability to get out of a ton of maps. Seems to be a common theme, including Genesis and a remastered futuristic remake of Terminal. In 2017, we were back, boots on the ground. It was Call of Duty World War II, so you'd have absolutely no potential to get out of the map without an exosuit, right? Well, no, because good old strafe jumping made a return, and there were honestly a ton of different spots that you could get into in this game. The most notable were on Sainte Marie des Mois, where you could get out of the map and on top of the map. And also you could get on top of the map of Cayenne. But of course, we cannot move on from this game without mentioning maybe my favorite glitch in Call of Duty history, the headquarters butt slide. It was a sight to behold when you could watch fellow COD lovers have a butt slide race across the HQ. And if Call of Duty wouldn't have gotten rid of the HQ, then maybe we could have given Mario Kart a run for their money. I know I say it every single video, but please, Call of Duty, bring back the headquarters. What are we doing? We are now on Black Ops 4, and in this game, a player found an infinite XP glitch on the Zombies map, Blood of the Dead, which was a remake of the original Mob of the Dead Zombies map from Black Ops 2. But if you're even newer to the COD series, you'll know this map as Rebirth Island. If you equipped these specific perks and followed a few simple steps, you could set up camp in a cell within this map where you didn't take any damage, and you could just sit there and melee hordes of zombies. You could level up hundreds of levels in just a couple hours. The crazy thing about this glitch is that players who had strike packs for their controllers just put their strike pack on rapid fire, and they could go AFK and leave their player there to melee zombies just till the end of time, pretty much. Players could literally go to bed, wake up the next day, and be a master prestige. Now, we all know, well, maybe some of us know, that Black Ops 4 didn't have a campaign, and they gave us their first ever Battle Royale mode called Blackout. Kind of rushed, but honestly turned out to be a pretty good game mode. But of course, listen, it was a rushed game mode, so there was gonna be an exploit. So if you had a car, or a truck, I would say, you could drive a truck to the top of this hill that you're looking at right now. You would go under this building, and then you follow a quick few steps, and you would be launched into the air on top of the map, which essentially would give everybody a glitch where you could kind of win for free. There was also another one very similar style where it just launched you up and you could fall out. There was really no benefit to it, but I don't know, it was kind of funny.
Bravo 6, going dark.
The next year, Modern Warfare made its return. As we all know, Infinity Ward rebooted the iconic series. Now, remember earlier in the video where we discussed that G-slide in Black Ops 3 and how Treyarch kind of removed it because they thought it was a mechanic that was kind of exploited and shouldn't be in the game? Well, this game actually did have a movement exploit, and it would be known as the slide cancel. Now, it wasn't as overpowered as the G-slide, but it did allow players to move around the map faster than they were supposed to. to, as it essentially kind of reset your tack sprint. So you pretty much thought Infinity Ward would follow the precedent that Treyarch kept and nerf it. Well, they actually didn't do anything, and it created this crazy divide in the player base as you have people jumping around and slide canceling, and became like this bigger than life TikTok movement, all sorts of crazy things, and never got patched. Kind of crazy. Now, I could do an entire video based on Warzone because that came out very similar within Modern Warfare 19. There was tons of glitches and bugs. Well, I just want to name a few and see if you can kind of remember these. There was an infinite stim glitch, which allowed players to stay in the gas and get unlimited health, which you could literally guarantee your win. And then there was a bunch of exploits like the Rose skin, pretty much being invisible in dark corners. Then there was buggy vehicles, gas mask animations. There's so many. If you want me to do a video on Warzone glitches, let me know in the comments down below. Now we are on to Cold War, and yet again, there were a bunch of different glitches you could do in zombies. Shocker, I know. To get into invisible barriers, essentially get infinite XP, players would use these methods to get dark ether camo, which was absolutely beautiful, by the way. But yeah, very similar to all the other ones, infinite glitches, infinite XP. Now on the multiplayer side, there was a glitch that allowed you to avoid the out of bounds death timer if you ran to a specific spot outside the map. And then there was also a glitch in private match where you could essentially spawn in on any map with a parachute by making the game think you are playing a fire-based team mode. But with the newer Call of Duties, I mean, honestly, they really weren't as cool. This is very basic, let's be honest with you. They're starting to get to a point now we're in 2020 at this era, you know, they're not as cool as they were in MW2, but at least there was two small ones, I guess. So now that brings us to Vanguard, and like I said, there really wasn't that many crazy glitches in Cold War, and there really wasn't that many in Vanguard. Now, there is kind of a funny one that we can go over here. The Goliath field upgrade. You may not know that because you probably didn't play Vanguard, but you could actually place demolition charges below the Goliath, then stand on top of it, and then you could trigger the explosion and go flying into the air on top of the Goliath. So this pretty much allowed players to get on several different maps and the top of several different maps, and was kind of reminiscent to the RPG jump all the way back in Call of Duty 4. But again, nothing really crazy. This brings us to Modern Warfare 2, and in this one, players found a way to do an insane super jump into the air. Now, how you did this was you would equip a bipod to a sniper, you would lay down on a slanted surface, and then you would ADS. This would then launch you into the air, and then in typical Modern Warfare fashion, players ended up hitting some crazy trick shots, even in MW2. Now, on top of this, we probably will know that Infinity Ward released their brand new mode called DMZ. It was their first attempt at an extraction shooter. And as you can imagine, this mode had a ton of exploits and glitches. There was teleporting, an unlimited scuba mask that allowed you to breathe underwater as long as you wanted, and by far the worst was unlimited under barrel exploit that allowed players to fire off infinite noob tubes. So this made one-man army noob tube lobbies in Modern Warfare 2 look like heaven. All right, Modern Warfare 3, same situation here. We can get out of the map again. Now, the way you could do it in this game was using deployable covers, the field upgrade. The two maps that you could get out of were Terminal and Subbase. Kind of funny, you never could get out of them back in the day, but now you could in this one. Little bit of a nostalgia there. On top of that, there was also a really funny but really mean glitch in Modern Warfare Zombies where you could call in a care package in the exfil heli, and when the care package landed, the exfil heli would explode. So you could be an absolute menace and stop people from trying to exfil or their game, and then they would leave them stuck in the lobby. I wish I would have known about this because I probably would have done it. I'm not gonna lie. And that brings us to our last Call of Duty game, and this one's not anything crazy, but there's actually a little side story that makes it kind of crazy. There was something called a camo swap glitch, which essentially gives you any camo you want on any gun. So you could get Modern Warfare 2 and Modern Warfare 3 camos on your Black Ops 6 guns. Now, originally Call of Duty doesn't want you to do that. They only want you having Black Ops 6 camos on Black Ops 6 guns. So the people that ended up doing this got a temporary shadow ban. which is insane to me because there's other things we could probably be working about over the camos in this game. So I'm pretty sure it's patched now. It was at the time of making this video. So if you got a shadow ban, let me know in the comments down below. How dare you? How dare you do such a bad thing? And there you have it. Bugs, exploits, glitches in every Call of Duty, man. It was really fun to go back and revisit some of these, go over the ones that I actually did myself. Yes, I'll admit it, I did some of these. Let me know in the comments. Did you do any of these? Be honest with me now. Hope you enjoyed this video. Leave a like if you did. Subscribe if you're new. 500K. We're getting close, man. We're getting close. If you want to watch another video, go click over there. We'll see you in the next one.